Hi guys, so just jumping on, we're talking all things havening techniques for this month's masterclass, and I'm really happy that you're here and that you've clicked play, or maybe you're playing this in like podcast style and listening to it on the go. So my name, I feel like I should introduce myself again, is Eloise McBride, and I am one of Australia's first trained and qualified in this therapy. So havening was invented around 17, 18 years ago now by two doctors from New York City. And it was really created on the presence of creating a safe haven in the landscape of the mind. Now, havening traditionally was known as amygdala depotentiation therapy. And the reason being, I'll go into a little bit more detail soon, but the amygdala is an almond-sized shape, little part of our brain, which is here. And this really sends off a flight or flight response to situations that we're in. And I'm going to go into it a little bit more, but I want to just explain why I choose this therapy. So myself, about 4.5 years ago, I was very much in a very mentally different space to where I am today. I used to find myself struggling on a daily basis with anxiety. I was so worried about what was going to happen in the future. And I was still living in the past when it came to many of the situations, the scenes, and the memories that had happened in my life. So I was really troubled on a day-to-day basis of worrying about the past, but worrying about the future, not knowing how to be present, not being okay with the present. And I never really understood why. So in my career choices up until that moment, I had been estate manager for a clothing company. I really loved motivating and inspiring people to, achieve their goals, but I also knew that by them achieving their goals, the business would also succeed. So I was very good at being a estate manager for a clothing company. I had a team of 120 women, and I absolutely loved it. And it then took me to the stage that I would look at my senior management, and they were beautiful women, but I just realized that I was going to follow in their footsteps, and that wasn't really something that I wanted to do. The training that I had been really in like very NLP based, very much about language and how we communicate with each other and how to understand people. Previously to that as well, I'd worked for McDonald's for a really long time. And so training and policies and procedures and the really understanding why and how we do things. So I think it was just always ingrained in me to really care about people and to really aspire to better the situation that we were in. But when it came to myself, I was constricting myself based in my reality due to my past experiences, and I didn't know how to overcome it. I had tried many different modalities in my time, and some of them had felt like a little bit sketchy, right? And I've always been quite skeptical about things, and I like to consider myself an open-minded skeptic. I like to, want to know the details, but also stay open. I'm not somebody that will go, oh no, like that's not for me. I'll give it all a go, which I did. I gave so many therapies a go in order to overcome my past, and none of them were working. I was still stuck. And so I was then I was probably at my lowest of lows, and I found myself, I went on a holiday, sort of just like an escape holiday to get away from where I was living. And divine timing, I ended up in a coffee shop and I met a woman named Karen Hedges. And Karen had just been over to the UK and studied in a modality called havening techniques. And there was just something about this woman that I recognized so much of myself within her. She was so happy. She was so vibrant. She was so full of life, and she just oozed this confidence and this beauty that there was a part of me that went, like, I was like that. Behind all of this mess, behind this worry, and behind this anxiety, you were showing me who I am. And so it wasn't hard for me to go, sign me up. how can I do this thing? I don't care what it is that you're on. What are you taking? Like, as long as it's not crack or cocaine, like, sign me up, I'm there. So the following day, we met up and we had a session of this technique, and everything from that day changed. I then found myself, I then was leaving the following day after our session, and I went back to where I was living, my hometown, and I decided to continue to do this thing that she did on me, on myself. And the results continued. Within 2.5 weeks, I had left the relationship. I'd left my hometown. I'd packed up my whole life, and I jumped in the car and I moved back to Queensland. I had lived there before, so this isn't like a kind of a bizarre thing. And up until that stage as well, I had consistently moved around. I was always running away from my problems, thinking that if I moved to Queensland, things would be better. If I moved to New South Wales, if I moved to Townsville, if I moved to Victoria, things would get better. And time does heal. I completely agree with that. But it's also really about healing this part of us. So I then found myself living back on the Gold Coast, and 2 weeks later, after being here, I was training in this modality. And I had really big imposter syndrome by that stage. Who do I think I am? I've just done this. Like, you know, why am I here? Sitting in a room with some pretty brilliant people. So I was one of the first 13. And it took me quite a while, and I really realized that havening found me, and then I am now one of the more senior, more recognized people here in Australia for this modality, and I absolutely love it. So it has completely changed my life, but now changes so many of my clients as well. From the simplest things I've worked with a client who had cat allergies. They completely disappeared. I've worked with dog phobias. I cleared a dog phobia in about 4.5 minutes. I've had, and that was a phobia that had lasted 16 years. The woman couldn't go to the beach because of her phobia of the dog. She couldn't find herself sitting in cafes because of dogs. So although we can be like, oh, like it's just a dog phobia, it also affected her relationships. It affected her friendships. It affected going out for lunch and breakfast. I've had endometriosis within 6 weeks clear up. And it's now been about 8 months, and there's still been no flare-ups. I've had just so many people who haven't been able to leave the house for 3 months that then leave the house, and it's because what's happening in the mind, in this little part, the almond-sized amygdala, is that part of us that shoots off a flight, freeze, worry signal. So if you imagine a dog, whenever you see a dog out and the dog puts its ears straight up and it's alert, right? This is what happens in our mind with this amygdala. It is shooting up little AMPA receptors, right? These little AMPA receptors, just like the dog's ears. And during traumatization, they are then potentiated. They stay shot up. That's why we can, when we've experienced a trauma, we will be, the same sensation will be like triggered, will be like sort of just like warning lights. It might be the smell, it might be images coming back, it might be sounds, our palms might get sweaty. We will have a physical response to this memory due to the AMPA receptors that are shot up on our amygdala. Right? So the first time I heard all of this, I did not understand it. So I invite you to either, I'll send out an email after this as well with some more information around the science behind havening, but I'm really trying to explain it in the dot points that I understood it when I started to train in this modality. Because it's one thing to understand trauma. It's one thing to understand how havening helps with the trauma. But when we really understand how our mind works and how trauma is encoded, it then helps us to understand how to decode it. Right? It's like putting together a puzzle. We don't put together the puzzle without knowing like what the picture looks like. We'd be there for a lot longer. So I use the word trauma very lightly, because a lot of us in this society that we live in leave trauma for the first responders, that the military only experience trauma. However, we can experience trauma when the landscape of our mind is in a sense of inescapability. So a few things have to happen in order for trauma to be encoded. There has to be an event, right? That's the first one. Something has to happen. We then also need to give that event meaning. So the event meant this to me, whatever the meaning is, right? It made me feel angry. It made me feel sad. Your meaning is going to be up to you. The landscape then of the mind at the time has to be in a sense of vulnerability for this to be encoded as a trauma, unpleasant experience, anything that remains stuck with us, right? Anything that's glued there, anything that's made those AMP receptors on our amygdala shoot up and stay there. So that's then the third one, the landscape, and I am going to go into that a little bit. But the last one, for it to be encoded as a trauma, and this is the one thing that really does make the difference, is that there has to be a sense of inescapability. That I was stuck, I was trapped, I couldn't get out, I thought I was going to die. This can be the same as when we have a moment of worry, of panic, and the part of our mind, right, that hasn't changed in the 2 million years that we've been on this planet as human beings, or however long we've been here, that used to have the ability to run like wild from lions, right? We're no longer not running from lions, but we're running from our partners. We're running from our colleagues. We're running away from bosses. We're running away from our children sometimes. It's the same response. It goes, just get me out of here. So when I spoke about, like, they're the four things. So we need to have the event. The event has to have meaning for us. The sense of inescapability has to be there, right? And then the landscape of the mind at the time has to be vulnerable. And I explain this, and, you know, I love the work of Brené Brown. I really believe in go and do the thing, go and be vulnerable, go and be brave, do the thing that you're scared to do. Like, amen to that, sister. However, if you think about a landscape being a garden, if a landscape of a garden is dry, is brittle, is deserted, we haven't had a lot of rain, it's there's not many plants, it's quite dirt, like just dirt, there's no grass, that landscape isn't as luscious as like a beautiful rainforest, right? So the chances of survival for a beautiful rainforest, or a deserted like backyard just with dirt, the forest is going to survive a lot more. It's going to flourish a lot more. It's going to rejuvenate itself a lot more. Where the deserted garden is really going to sort of be left to do its thing, right? It's going to be a little bit harder to, grow out flowers, or one day like grow an avocado tree. So the mind is the same thing. When our mind is in a sense of flourishment, I like to call it resiliency, right? Where we're nurturing it, we're pruning it, we're taking care of our mental health. We're less likely to encode these memories as much, because we're in a state of resiliency compared to the state of vulnerability. So this is, again, a different vulnerability as Brené talks about. This is that I'm not good enough, that I'll never succeed. Who do I think I am? I'm not good enough, right? The talk that I know so well, the talk that I now talk about, because we had a very great relationship, me and this self-talk. And, there's still days, but now I catch it. And I go, oh, right? Mean Girl's having a great old day. Like, do you want to be quiet now? Like, I think you do, right? Sometimes I even talk out loud to myself, and I'm okay with that. So are we flourishing, or are we like malnourished, right? When it comes to, so we want to be more in a landscape of our mind of being flourishing than being left, right? Or feeling less, not feeling like being in that vulnerable landscape, right? So how are we looking after our neural garden, right? Our mind as if it was a garden. How are we taking care of it? Are we using affirmations? Are we using self-love? Are we using havening, which is just so beautiful? And because of the work of havening, it is just so beautiful. So wherever you are now, unless you're on the replay and you're driving, I invite you to just do this with your hands, just in one direction. Now with our hands, this is going to produce different brain waves. So while you're just doing your hands, I want to just explain the different brain waves. Now, brain waves work in a per second sort of way of measuring them. So if you just continue with your hands, I'm going to keep talking. I talk with my hands, so I'll stop, but you keep going. So during traumatization, remember using that word very lightly, unpleasant experiences, the gamma brainwave is our fastest, and that's when usually trauma is encoded. Right? This is our high panic worry, and this is 40 hertz per second, so really quite high, right? If this was on a reader, we're going up really high from 0 to 40. So this is the brainwave that, like, I'm not in my head, I'm in that fight or flight, I'm like running from lions. One lower than that, which is 12 to 40. So 40 was like here, right? That's to 40. We've then got beta brainwave. So this is one lower than gamma. And beta is from 12, so about halfway to 40. Now, beta is when we're highly alert of our surroundings. It's when we're in problem-solving state. So I've got a problem, how am I going to solve it? Okay, I need to think about A, B, C, D. This is how I figure out the problems, right? We're sort of one up. Then we drop down from between 8 and 12, into alpha. Now the alpha brain state is that really present, I'm here. There's nowhere else to be. When Eckhart Tolle talks about the power of now, that being very present, I'm here. I'm in a really present state. I'm aware of what's going on. I'm okay with what's going on. Life is good, right? We're neither like up, we're neither down, we're just here. Some people can drop into hypnosis in the alpha state as well. And then one lower from the alpha state is the theta state. So this is between 4 and 8, sorry. So if we're on that scale, we're seeing like we're really dropping down quite low here. Now, theta is that beautiful state that often we wake up in, or just as we're dropping into sleep. And it's that even when we are asleep, it's that really dreamy state that we're in. That, like, I'm good. We dream a lot in the theta state. And if we drop one down, we then drop into delta. And delta is 0 hertz per second to 4. So compared to this really fast, like anxiety brainwave up here, we're all the way down here. And so this is the really the deep meditation state. This is where the healing and the regeneration of our cells happen. So often in our 4th stage of sleep, this is where we are. That really completely out of it. We don't really often dream in this state. We're completely just one with source, I like to say. And when we drop into this, our body, our cells, it's how we really come back into our being. So this touch here, what this is doing is this is speeding up and producing that delta state 5 times faster, right? So we're falling into delta, right? This calm and relaxed state up to 5 times faster, just with this, right? And you can probably feel, you've been doing it for a couple of minutes now, feel yourself, like, actually, I'm feeling a little bit nicer. Like, I'm, can probably like not be worrying about what you're worrying about prior to this call. Like, things are starting to slow down. If we want to speed that up a little bit, we then go from our shoulders, which is speeds it up between 5 to 38%. Okay. We've then got our eyes, which if we close our eyes and laterally move our eyes to the left and to the right, keeping our face still, the eyes to the left and to the right, and the left and to the right, this increases it on average between 12 to 20%. Now, the highest way of producing more delta is over the cheeks. This is about 90%. We get there a lot quicker. And so the havening touches, these are the havening touches, minus the eyes, because that's obviously not a touch, but it is one way to really produce a faster brainwave, to the slower the brainwave, sorry. So the cheeks are at 90. And I'll give you a simple trick. If you now just cross your hands over, so to opposite cheeks, and close your eyes, and it feels like somebody else is doing it. Because the left side of the brain and the right side gets confused, which is just brilliant. So you can come back to just wherever feels more comfortable for you. I love the face. I love the shoulders. So I do this one-on-one to a client, or they do this touch on themselves to really like drop in. So the beautiful way of dropping into this beautiful delta state allows us to, I'm here now. There's nowhere else I need to be. Remembering this is the part of us, this brainwave is the one that restores our body, right? And, I'm not sure if I know who created us, how we got here, the divine connection with source. I'll probably always have questions to ask. But I do know that our body knows how to heal itself, and that each part of our body was created with an incredible intelligence that it knows what to do, which is why we can cut our hand and our body heals. Right? I also know that our eyebrows are for water to not go into our eyes. Our eyelashes are for dust to not go into our eyes. So when it comes to our body, like, it's been created with divine intelligence and it knows what to do. But so many of us are either living in the past or we're worried about the future. So we're spending a lot more time in these higher brain waves, right? This gamma, this beta, this alpha, and we're not really dropping into these lower brain waves. So even just spending 2 minutes a day with this, or even 2 minutes with this before we fall asleep or as we wake up in the morning, and potentially adding some affirmations to that as well to really amplify it, we are then allowing our body to regenerate, to restore, to heal. If we've got children, this is a really beautiful tool to teach them on how to down-regulate the way that they're feeling. Right? If a child is, their amygdala is shooting off these responses, if it's something really unpleasant and it stays shut up, this is a beautiful way to down-regulate it. I'm potentially going to do a masterclass on havening with children as well, and just the importance of touch and how to and some questions. But yeah, we'll see when and how that unfolds as well. If you'd like that, let me know. And so when it really comes to how havening is just so beautiful is we can work with events that have happened. So like earlier, like I mentioned, you know, the cat allergy that the woman had, she wasn't born with it. And it was something that just, you know, sort of happened in her life, that she turned around and went, hang on, why am I now allergic to cats? There was an experience, an event that had happened, that she had witnessed her family cat be killed by a car. And so when the cat was killed and she had witnessed it, the mind encoded that as, how do I never experience this again? Right? That was really traumatic. That was awful. Like, you don't want to see that again. You never want to witness that. You never want to witness the pain, the sadness, the hurt of, you know, the cat not being here. So the mind is so brilliant in wanting to keep us alive and keep us safe. That's its job, right? All it wants is for us to survive another day. So her body created an allergic reaction to cats, so she would never feel that feeling. Because how do you not witness your cat be killed? Well, you don't get a cat, right? Easy. But if you love cats, how do you then not get a cat? So this woman loved cats so much that she had gotten a cat and then realized that she was allergic to it and kept the cat. So she had been living with about 3 years with an allergy towards this cat. And we had a session, and the following, and in it, she had come to me for other things as well, but she was really sniffly. And I said, what's going on? She said, well, I'm allergic to my cat. And in that moment, I thought, well, you're insane. And why do you have a cat if you're allergic? We laugh about this now because me and this woman, she's given me full permission to share this story, and we're very good friends. So she, I knew that I'd really like her in that moment. And she goes, yeah, well, you know, I really love cats, but I'm allergic to them. I never used to be, but now I am. So I said, okay, well why weren't you? When did this happen? And she said, yeah, well, I witnessed my cat be killed by a car. And so we did an event havening on the witnessing of the cat, and the next day she woke up allergy free, and it's now been about 1.5 years and still no allergies. So when we experience, I've had other people who have, you know, created allergies towards other foods or other environments where it's not necessarily the problem with the food, but a memory that they have linked to eating the food. So a lot of us will go, you know, when we think of chicken soup, we either love chicken soup or we don't like chicken soup, because it can depend on the story that we have linked to chicken soup. I personally love chicken soup because the only real time that I ever ate it was when I was unwell and I was getting love. So for me, the smell of chicken soup means love. And so we all have different responses to different smells, different sounds, different you know, environments, and some are pleasant and some are unpleasant. And so it's like a lot of people don't like Brussels sprouts because it can bring back memories of them being forced to sit at the table and eat Brussels sprouts. And it's probably not the Brussels sprouts that's the problem, but the people that you had to sit around the table and eat the Brussels sprouts with. So, you know, I remember even myself, one of my earlier memories was lentils. I could not even say the word lentil. I wouldn't go near lentils. I'd never eaten lentils because when we were children, me and my brother pinky promised, which was a big thing in my family. And my parents, they were working very hard. We didn't grow up with a lot. So they, my mum did the best with what we had. And, you know, looking back now, they were very young when they had us and they did a very extraordinarily, very good job. But my mum had made this lentil stew. And if you're 6 years old, chances are you're not going to like a lentil stew. So me and my brother, we had to sit at the table until we had finished our meal. Now as an adult, I completely understand that. But as a child, we thought that we would go out into the garden and pour it out. So we go out into the garden and we pour out this lentil soup, probably over the fence to the next door neighbour's dog. And we pinky promise that we won't tell mum or dad. Now, when we were children, we used to get separated and then questioned. So my parents would take my brother in and question him, and then they'd take me in and question me and just see who was telling the truth. And I had made a pinky promise to my brother that we were not going to tell. And so had he. Anyway, my brother straight away, we poured it out in the garden. He gave up the story, but I never did. So from that moment, that subconscious part of me encoded, one, don't eat lentils. You don't like them, right? Because I ended up, I think I got soap in my mouth or something like that, which was, the common punishment in the 80s. And so I got like soap in my mouth, and my brother didn't get anything. And so also in that moment, I realized that promises didn't really matter. They didn't really mean anything. Like, you could make a promise and just break it. And that was a really hard one to like live with, right? So I'd often then, as an adult or especially a teenager, find myself in positions and situations that I would make promises and then I would break them. And, it's not something that I'd like to admit, but when you look back at, the little 6-year-old that really meant that a promise meant a promise and ended up getting into trouble. So these memories, right, getting coded within us. And then the mind is only ever looking for evidence as to how we can survive every situation that we're in. So when asked, like, and in situations with people, the memory bank that we have is what we're going to return to. Right? So when we have a memory of all of these unpleasant experiences, our mind is only ever going to be able to go back to them. Right? And I know for myself, it was so easy to look at the past and see everything in all the areas that life had gone wrong. I played in that victim mentality so well that I wasn't able to look back and ever see the positives. Right? I've now cleared so many of my memories. Like, I can tell you that lentil story without any problem. I now eat lentils on a weekly basis and I actually really love them. I can joke with my family about this story because we all remember it, because I had like shared it with so much like pain and anger and like resentment to my brother for doing that. When now I'm like, gosh, we were just kids. Like, and then I've had other memories that are so much more traumatic than that have completely just been permanently depotentiated. So these glutamate receptors that once shot up every time I thought about these memories are now completely wiped away, gone as if they didn't happen. And that memory is now probably stored in the hippocampus somewhere. And, clients often say to me, it's like I read it in a story or I watched it in a movie. Like, it's like I kind of remember it, but it's no longer me. I'm no longer the one that's emotionally carrying this. So let's do a little bit of havening. Let's experience it a little bit. And I am going to as well, if you've got this on the replay as well, and you ladies here are also going to receive a recording for this that you can use in your own time. I've also just had some really amazing meditations be added to Insight Timer, which is a free meditation app. I really highly recommend getting on and grabbing those. They are ones that I usually leave for my one-on-one clients, and previously have had them for sale as well. So these are now available for free. You can then share them or send them to other people who can access them for free as well. And I'm really excited to be on there. And then the recordings as well. I've got a few more that are coming up too. And Nikki Ayres and myself as well have got a masterclass in, I think it's a fortnight from tonight, so a Monday in 2 weeks, on how healing gets to be fun. So like everything that I've spoken about tonight, it's like brainwaves and like understanding this and like, what's this doing with this touch. The next masterclass that I'm going to be in is going to be really fun, because healing gets to be fun, right? It doesn't have to be hard and sticky and uncomfortable. And there's a massive misconception that it has to be uncomfortable, right? That it has to be like icky and like, oh no, don't look in the box because like you'll be afraid of what you'll see. It actually gets to be like curious and like, oh, like how much fun can I actually have while I'm doing this? So if you feel the call, the link will be sent in the email as well. There's going to be a lot in this email. Stay tuned. But yeah, it will be a fortnight from today. And then, yeah, we've got like a month thing unfolding. It's just going to be so beautiful. Can't wait. And my hands are like, they do this thing that they're like, okay, like I'm ready to haver now. It's like if I haven't seen like a client in like a couple of days, my hands are like burning. I'm like, I just need to touch somebody. And then often I'll just refer to myself. So what we're going to do in a little moment is we're just going to check in like with ourselves. And we're going to ask ourselves right now, is there anything that I'm willing and ready to let go of? Is there a story that maybe I'm telling myself at the moment that I want to stop telling myself? Or maybe it's something that somebody else has said to you recently that you just keep playing this scenario over and over again. Like, why did they say that? What did they mean when they said that? Like trying to like overanalyze and understand it. I know that one too well because I used to do it a lot. Or maybe it's something from the past quite a while ago. Whatever you are ready to release will be up to you. And this is the thing that I love most about havening is that I don't need to know what it is that my clients work on. I've worked with a lot of cases from molestation to rape to experiences that people don't want to tell me. And that's okay because they don't have to, right? We can, again, depotentiate those AMPA receptors and the memories, the emotions attached to these events simply by applying this touch and a few distractions. So what we are going to do is, I just want to talk through the process and then we'll do the process. So we're going to rate, when we think about this memory, we're going to think about it for 15 seconds. And it might be a memory or it might be just a feeling, just like an icky feeling in our tummy or our throat or our elbows, wherever it is for you. And we're going to then rate the way that this feeling feels. And we're going to rate it on a scale of 0 to 10. So 0 being, I feel nothing. And 10 feeling, I don't like this at all. Get me out of here, right? So 0 to 10. We're then going to apply the havening touch either to our shoulders, our face, and our hands. We might do the lateral eye movement. We're just keeping our face still and with our eyes looking to the left and to the right, left and to the right. And then we're also going to do some little ear pinching. So it's like an ear, like pinch and a massage. And with this one, it's fine if you've got earrings, you can just go in and around the earrings and up and down. And all you're going to do is just follow along with me. And it's going to be lots of fun. So what I want you to do is just take a moment now. Right? Just take a moment. And just together, let's just take a really simple, nice breath in. Let it go. We're going to do that again. Breathing in. Letting it go. One last time. And now close your eyes if they're not already closed. And I want you to just take a moment to think about this memory. Think about this scene. Just allow, without judgment, for whatever comes up for you is perfect. And just allow yourself to be there now, knowing that you're safe, that you're here. We're just revisiting the memory. We're not reliving it. Maybe get that feeling in your tummy. And now just mentally rate this feeling on a scale of 0 to 10 as to where you are. And just see if by chance you can just amplify it at all. Wonderful. So now bring your hands to your shoulders, to elbows, or your favorite havening position, maybe your face or your hands, and just start havening now. I want you to just count backwards from 10 to 0 with me. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now continue havening, and with your eyes look to the left, to the right, the left, right, left, right. Now just counting backwards from 10 to 0 again. 10, 9, remembering to haven. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a nice deep breath in. Let it go. And now with your thumb and index finger, just come up to your ears and start pinching and massaging in and around your ears. And continue to listen to the words that I say, pinching both ears if possible. Listening to the words that I say. The flamingos in Tasmania are purple and have orange beaks. The flamingos in Tasmania are purple and have orange beaks. The flamingos in Tasmania are purple and have orange beaks. The elephants in Paris have skinny yellow legs because they learn to do the can-can from birth. The elephants in Paris have skinny yellow legs because they learn to do the can-can from birth. The elephants in Paris have skinny yellow legs because they learn to do the can-can from birth. Can you do the can-can? Can you do the can-can? The elephants in Paris have skinny yellow legs because they learn to do the can-can from birth. The chihuahuas in Bali are enormous because it never rains in England. Return to havening now, from your shoulders to your elbows if possible, if it feels comfortable, or across the face. Listening to my words. The chihuahuas in Bali are enormous because it never rains in England. The chihuahuas in Bali are enormous because it never rains in England. Now with your eyes, just look to the left, to the right, the left, right, left, right. Now take a nice deep breath in. Let it go. And now return back to this scene, back to this memory that you had. And earlier you rated it on a scale to 0 to 10. Now just get emotion and a notion of where you are now on that same scale of 0 to 10, and just notice where you are. And you may notice that now you feel different about this scene, this scenario, this memory. It may have shifted. The memory might seem a little bit further away. It might feel a little bit less emotional. And potentially it might feel exactly the same. And if that's the case, I invite you to, when you have the recording, to continue and do this recording again. But I also invite you to look a little bit deeper. Because sometimes the first time that we experience something isn't the first time we experience something, and it can just be another layer upon the onion. And sometimes finding out where the seed is almost like finding a needle in the haystack. But with some work and the right tools, we can really find where that needle is, or the seed of the onion is for somebody. So that is in a nutshell, the way that I can explain havening. In a nutshell, I would probably need about 8 hours, if not more. And I try to explain it, and I try to share it on my stories through my social medias. But this has been really beautiful to share it here. There's so much science, there truly is, and I'm not sure I'll ever do it the justice that it deserves, but we do have some incredible neuroscience people in our work that, you know, do all the talk for us. So I can sit with somebody and intuitively, you know, do the healing with them. And I know that I am exceptional at holding space in this modality. But when it comes to really talking about the nitty gritty of the science, I'm going to leave that up to the experts, because I really believe that if it doesn't light you up, don't do it. So I want to just open up the space for any questions, if we have them. And, you know, I really love what I do. And so I invite you to tonight is just to take some beautiful time. You'll get the recording really soon as well. So I recommend doing that before the evening. I recommend like jumping on and downloading the Insight Timer. There's some really beautiful like meditations on there, and like just add havening to everything. If you're a woman, the one thing that whoever did create us, God, Gandhi, Buddha, divine source, whoever, however, the one gift that they did give us women is that we get to sit down on the toilet. We don't have to stand up and do our business. So we actually have like even just that 30 seconds just to take that time, and let that be a really good trigger for you to go, I'm going to take my 30 seconds, right? So I'm going to open it up. If you have any questions, and just to say hello. All right, so hello.
That was so good.
Oh, yeah? Wonderful.
Just even like the memory, like, yeah, I got emotional because it was just, it changed so quickly. Like it literally just, yeah, amazing.
And so where that memory is now is where it will now stay.
Okay.
Right? So you can do some more work, like when I send the recording, do some more work. So usually my one-on-one sessions are 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how much we work.
Wow.
That would take 4 minutes, maybe less.
Yeah.
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 So those results are permanent. Yeah. So those AMPA receptors that are shot up are now like a little bit more like this, right?
Yeah.
And so with a little bit more all around, we're like, pew. Go on. You didn't see my hand then. And not like those ones that then you can like walk into and like recatch them, like gone. Right?
Gone, okay.
Yeah. So it's permanent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Any questions about havening, Ash?
No. I jumped on to the masterclass that you did on the gang as well. So I've kind of had a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. That's it. And the mind learns by repetition, right? Which is what the last masterclass was on. And yeah, the mind is just brilliant. And just like a child learning the alphabet, the more that we hear this, we're like, yep, okay, I get it.
I'm excited for the kids too, because I feel like that would really help Ada, like with their emotions and
and understanding our brainwaves as well. Like I said, like it's like looking at the puzzle and then knowing how to like piece the pieces together, right? But if we don't have that picture, then it's really puzzle together. And so when it comes to our brainwaves, like I actually notice myself now, and I'm like, and you know, I notice without judgment, and I'm like, I'm really like my brain is working really fast right now. Like I'm really in my rabbit brain, right? Because I call it like the high beta, low beta, and the gamma brainwave. I call it like turtle brain rabbit brain, right? That fast. And then I call like the theta and the delta like my turtle brain. So it's like, hey dude, like how you doing? Like, yeah. So, and like,
I have a question.
Pardon?
I have a question.
Wonderful.
When you like the sillyisms during the havening, like the chihuahuas are fat in Indonesia because it doesn't rain in London, is that just to take the brain away from, like, it's like a funny distraction, a light distraction?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. So the funny distractions are just a really way to like get the mind thinking. But what, like the chihuahuas? I'm finding out like I'm in Bali and there's chihuahuas, but it doesn't rain in England, and so the mind is just trying to piece it together to make sense of a situation. So it distracts us from the memory. It's like when your child falls over and you go and give it a lollipop. And then all of a sudden, like, they're okay, right? Because it distracted the mind from the reality. And this can cause a problem because, like, I know for myself, like, there's an issue and I'm like, where's the chocolate at? Right? Because when I was a child, like, mum would be like, come on, like, let's have a piece of chocolate. But that will make everything okay. So my mind goes, I have a problem. I feel sad. Where's the chocolate at? So for ourselves, like, it's creating that same distraction as if we would distract a child, but not with food.
I do a lot of that.
I know. So, yeah, I hope that answers those. Any other questions?
No, well, some may come up, but for now, no.
And we've got a week together at the retreat.
I'm so jealous.
Oh, Ashley, I would do anything to have you there.
Your time will come.
Oh, it would have been so good. Next year, next one.
In divine timing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, when it's your time. And, you know, I admire you for how much you really do show up, Ash, and like how much you are like really committed to yourself and your growth and helping other people. And like,
oh, thank you.
Yeah, you two should find each other and become like friends on social media, because Mel, I think
we are friends on Facebook.
We are. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Oh,
yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Well,
I agree. I love that.
Beam of sunshine.
Oh, I love you both.
Yeah, you're amazing. So we'll wrap it up. I'm just going to stop recording in a second. So those watching the replay, thank you so much. Go and follow Ashley. And I know there's like 70 people in my masterclass thing, and so many people like, I watched the replay. So thanks again, guys, for watching the replay, and I love you all.